I noticed my colleague on the other side made the point that this bill is able to attack a problem of bureaucrats usurping Article I power. And I took note of it because I don't hear my Republican colleagues talking about Article I power very much anymore, as Donald Trump and this administration have completely usurped all of Congress's power, the power of the purse, the power to use executive orders to overrule legislation, to cancel effectively to agencies that Congress created. But somehow you found Article I power when it comes to, quote, unelected bureaucrats. Now, I was a clerk for a district court judge in San Francisco who had a lot of patent cases. And really, they're so complicated and so technical that he might as well have thrown a dart at a dartboard to see which way it would come out. It was just beyond his expertise, which he would have readily admitted. And so the notion that judges somehow have more expertise about the intricacies of implementing complex laws, whether administrative laws, especially whether they be environmental or financial or in some other ways, is absurd on its face. And it may be politically expedient for my Republican colleagues to want to put this power in the court's hands, but it will make our system much, much less effective. And I'm frankly sick and tired of hearing the term unelected bureaucrat as if the patriotic men and women of our federal government who are working anonymously for the United States to execute our laws, to protect our borders, to engage in diplomacy abroad are somehow, because they're not elected to office, any less competent or expert than somebody who, I guess, who wins an election is preposterous. But I would note that if your concern is Article I power, I might encourage you all to speak up against this Department of Justice charging with criminal charges one of your colleagues for doing her job, her constitutional mandated job. Now, I know many of you think you take an oath to Donald Trump, but in reality, the oath is to the Constitution. And you ought to be very, very careful about continuing to stay quiet as this president ravages and destroys our democracy and completely undermines and devastates your Article I power. So if you're going to find God and recognize that there's Article I power when it relates to administrative law, I hope you will also find Article I power to stand up to a rogue authoritarian administration rather than continuing to sit quietly as your own power is taken away and your own colleagues are being arrested for what is so obviously a politicized, trumped-up, bogus charge. And
Will the gentleman just yield for a friendly but
yes,
but probing question? I hope. Okay. So this is on the point of expertise. You have a lot of courtroom experience. Say there's a case about whether someone was driving DUI. There's no doubt that the chemist who knows about body chemistry and alcohol is going to know more than members of the jury, but we still leave the ultimate determination to the jury to use their common sense, but they're allowed to take in all of the expert testimony. So why is it that we would say we want somebody who has expertise to be making a decision on an ambiguous or inscrutable part of a statute rather than a court whose job it is to interpret the meaning of the law?
Well, it's clear the courts have to have a role, and I don't think any of us are saying that the courts shouldn't have a role, and that's why I wish we would work in a more bipartisan way to rewrite administrative law after Chevron, because this is a very, very important issue that will have many, many follow-on effects. But for a judge or a jury or anyone who's not a scientific expert or a specific expert in a field to learn an entire field without the benefit of those who are experts fundamentally undermines the efficacy of our laws and the implementation of our laws. So why we would shun expertise is beyond me, and I yield back.